you down the road at nearly 200 miles per hour. In the early 1990s, Porsche was speeding off a financial cliff, if not at 200 miles per hour, then pretty rapidly. Annual sales were a third of what they had been in the 1980s. The company's manufacturing processes were inefficient and defective. The new CEO, Wendelin Wiedeking, at 41 years old, the youngest of a new generation of German auto manufacturing executives, decided to institute Japanese-style manufacturing techniques and quality improvements. Costs fell and sales rose, and the company was able to avoid disaster. The new CEO had bought Porsche some time. He knew the company needed a fundamental change, something different, something new. It needed, as most companies eventually do, to innovate or risk losing everything. It needed a new car. In the second half of the 1990s, the company began planning an automobile that was far outside the sports car niche it had focused on successfully for 50 years. Porsche decided to make a sport utility vehicle, an SUV, a family car associated not with racing's checkered flags, but with soccer moms and soccer dads slumped behind the wheel, mournfully recalling their lost youth. Porsche called its new car the Cayenne. A Porsche SUV? It didn't make sense. The Porsche brand was about speed and power, daring and engineering, not about loading up the family car with groceries and taking Emily, Mike, and their little friends to their Saturday games. What did Porsche know about SUVs? It had never built one before. But Porsche had done its homework. Specifically, it had designed and built the product, the Cayenne, around the price. When most people hear the word price, they think of a number. That's a price point. When we use the term price, we are trying to get at something more fundamental. We want to understand the perceived value that the innovation holds for the customer. How much is the customer willing to pay for that value? What would the demand be? Seen in this light, price is both an indication of what customers value and a measure of how much they are willing to pay for that value. Porsche understood all this when it set about creating the Cayenne. Porsche's top executives knew they had a bold, perhaps even revolutionary concept. They also knew the car would be a tremendous risk. They instructed their product team to rigorously determine what the customer wanted in a Porsche SUV and, importantly, how much they were willing to pay. The message was clear. If the customer was not willing to pay a price that would ensure success, Porsche would walk away from the Cayenne. Long before the first concept car rolled out of the Engineering Group Center in Weissach, the product team conducted an extensive set of surveys with potential customers, gauging the appetite for a Porsche SUV and evaluating prices to find an acceptable range. They were pleased to find that customers were enthusiastic. Analysis showed that customers were willing to pay more for a Porsche SUV than they would for comparable vehicles from other manufacturers. The potential for a hit was there. This meant that Porsche could invest in building its SUV. But what exactly should it build? Porsche wasn't about to risk creating a car with a bloated design. Every single feature stood trial before the customer. Target customers wanted and were willing to pay for a high, and in this vehicle category unknown, level of sportiness. They expressed an interest in a powerful engine and a handling performance close to a sports car, despite the size of an SUV. Porsche's famous manual 6-speed racing transmission was not on the wish list. Out it went. But the voice of the customer convinced the Porsche engineers to include large cup holders, something Porsche was not used to. At every turn, the product team removed features that customers did not value, even if the engineers loved them, and replaced those with features customers were actually willing to pay for. Porsche's masterstroke was thinking about monetization long before product development for the SUV was in full speed, then designing a car with the value and features customers wanted the most around a price that made sense. The result was total corporate alignment. Porsche knew it had a winner and had the confidence to invest accordingly. Over time, the Cayenne enabled Porsche to generate the highest profits per car in the industry, the whole automotive industry. 10 years after it hit the market in 2003, Porsche was selling about 100,000 Cayennes annually, almost 5 times as many as it did in the launch year. Today, the Cayenne accounts for about half the company's total profit, With a venerable 911.